Paul. How you doing?
No problem. All right.
You get asked this a million times. We've met. I interviewed Johnny on his bus in front of Ram's Head on stage last year.
Oh, I remember that. Oh, geez. That's right. Yes.
Oh, cool. I'm really glad you remember.
Yeah, we loved that place.
Yeah, it was a great show, and the interview was amazing. I appreciate you're so hospitable. You know, it was an awesome experience.
And I tell you, he was doing so much better there.
But thank you for making that happen that day. That was amazing for us.
No problem. It was so important because he was in such a freaking cocoon from the old management. They didn't allow him to speak with anybody, and then, he was in such bad shape he couldn't. So It was a combination of both, so that we were really trying to fix that.
Well, it looked like he was enjoying himself, and he had no problem talking to me, and it was a thrill. So number one, congratulations on the Grammy.
Thanks. I mean, it was obviously the word is bittersweet, which it was. He had never received a Grammy for his own stuff.
I know.
He got it for working. He got producer credits for working with Muddy. He got nominated for almost every one of his solo projects, but he never won one. So this was a big thing. And plus, I was honored that he had me produce it and play on it. But I got to tell you, when we were in the studio and I played him the mixes, the final mixes, he leaned over and in my ear he said, Paul, if we don't get a Grammy for this, they're nuts. But the Grammys are regular people. They are musicians. They are band members. They are producers. It's not this hidden machine that makes these ridiculous decisions. It's all of us. I'm a member. But they all voted, and it was some moment.
Yeah, I again, congratulations. The album is fantastic. He deserved it. You deserved it. All the other band members surely deserved it.
Yeah, thanks. It's great because Johnny and I, we actually both get a Grammy in the Best Of category. The producer and the artist gets it, so I was pretty honored. And I found out that Johnny, because of that, in that category, Best of Latin, Best of Classical, Best of Blues,
right?
Those categories that, the producer and the artist get it, but Johnny never got his Grammys for producing the Muddy stuff. So now I find out that I think we're going to be able to get him the actual statue for those recordings.
Oh, that's fantastic.
The old management never followed through. You get a little certificate, but he never actually got his award. So that he's owed 3 of them. So I'm working on that now with the estate.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that was cool.
So listen, from all the fans too, I want to just thank you personally for what you did for Johnny. I know it was a labor of love for you, but thank you.
Really, thanks. I met him as a musician. He turned into a friend, and that's all I saw him as. Because I knew if I looked at him as my idol, my icon, I couldn't help him. He was a buddy, a father, another human who needed a lot of help. I mean, it was day to day. You see the results long term, but you're just trying to get him through every day because he was a child of the '60s, of Woodstock. He did a lot of stuff. He made Ozzy Osbourne look like he had training wheels.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was and so we crafted this plan, and he asked me to help him out. And so we were playing an amazing game of catch up. Because he was being written out of music history. A, because the shape he was in, and B, because of the management was just falling apart, the old management.
Right.
So that's why those later years, like you saw at the shows, he was healthier, he was alert, he was having fun.
Yeah. When did you meet him?
Around 2000.
Okay. And how did
I came in, I played. Oh, how did that?
Well, yeah. How did the meeting come about?
Okay. I was in the studio recording for the XFL, and I happened to be working on a blues piece. I was writing and playing, and he heard it, and he said, "Oh, you sound pretty good. I'm in here doing demo for I'm a Blues Man album." It wasn't called that then. But he said, "I'm looking for a song," and the producer said he's looking for a song too, Dick Sherman. So he said, "You want to write one?" So I wrote one, I submitted the demo the next day. He goes, "Oh, this is pretty good. You got 2 more." Okay, so I wrote 2 more. He says, "Wow, but there's some other playing on there, some other guitar parts. You want to record those on the album?" I go, "Oh, okay." He says, "Well, since you're going to do that, you want to play on the whole album?" I go, "Okay." He goes, "Well, since you're on the album, you're going to have to come on tour." I'm like, "Okay." And it just, it didn't stop. And then it was like, I need a little help with my management. I'm having trouble. And then, do you want to produce?
And one thing after another.
It was a give and take kind of thing. He took me under his wing. In the blues world, there's that real carrying the torch kind of thing, and getting the next guy prepared. So he turned me on to certain stuff that I should listen to that he did. Traditional music and riffs and ideas, and he always wanted me to do well too, because he appreciated my playing, and we got along well. So it was a huge honor. But that's how it started.
Right.
And at the Carriage House, which became "I'm a Blues Man." I wrote that song, and then later we did the Roots and this Step Back more recently.
Yeah.
At the same.
Well, what an amazing collaboration it turned out to be. I want to roll the clock back a little bit and talk about you. So, what was your start in music? What was your start in playing the guitar? I know, if you read your bio online, I can see the, hundreds of different people you've played with, but what was your start?
Well, Johnny always said, "Paul, I know that you play a lot of other stuff, and stuff that I don't even play, but I'm glad that you're playing blues with me, but I know you can do other things. I've heard you at Soundcheck, and I know." So, I studied with Steve Vai, studied with Steve Kahn, Mike Stern. I went to Berklee College of Music, and then I just played in so many groups, so many bands. I was part of the A band. I was the session guy, the hired guy, the side man, that kind of thing. Plus, I had my own group together. I had my own solo album, but I was going out playing with. I was a session guy. I was a touring guy. So Johnny just met me when I happened to be, the planets aligned, when I just happened to be in the studio working on another session. That was for, like I said, the XFL. That was for the TV and that NBC or whatever. And that's how it happened. But I will say this, and I didn't think anything of it until recently. When I first sat in the studio, face to face with Johnny, chair to chair, guitar to guitar, and we're playing a song that I wrote. And he plays his parts, I play mine, and the engineer at the time, we finished the song, and I'm next to Johnny, and I said to the engineer, I said, "Okay, I'd like to do my parts over again." And the whole studio gasped. "What do you mean over again? Nobody does their song over again with Johnny Winter. Why would you want to play more? Why would you? This is Johnny's show. You don't want to." And I'm like, "Whoa, I just did that." "No, you don't understand. Now that I heard what Johnny's doing, I want to play less." And they go, "What?" And Johnny goes, "What do you mean less? Nobody's ever said that. Everybody wanted to outdo me or play more than me or challenge me." He goes, "I like you. We're gonna get along really well."
That's awesome.
Back in the 70s, it was just, leads and solos and everybody playing on top of each other, and everybody was trying to be better than Johnny Winter.
Oh, yeah. So
after the session, I'm leaving the building, and the owner of the studio comes up. He says, "Paul, I have to talk to you." I go, "Oh, boy, what did I do?" No. He goes, "I'm not one into this psychic stuff or this weird kind of stuff, but I got to tell you, I watched how you and Johnny got along together." He goes, "I don't know what it is." And again, this was back when we first met.
Right.
I don't know what it is. There's something about you two. All the work that you've done has led to this moment, to you being with Johnny. And I think you two guys are going to work together for a long time. And he said, "I think, Paul, you're going to help Johnny in some way." He goes, "I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but there's just something about the way you guys are." And he saw it, and I didn't see it. I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's nice." But now in hindsight, I'm like, wow, he saw this friendship developing right there, and this trust, which would then lead to him trusting me to help him with the, getting off the drugs and helping his career and helping his home life and all that kind of stuff.
What did you think when he told you that?
Well, I was just happy that I was playing with Johnny at the time, and I was like, "Wow, you really saw something?" Okay, because you're in the moment.
Yeah.
And it's like someone watching the chess game from the outside. You know, you're working on your moves, but you don't see how it's being viewed by others. So he saw this, and he saw, you know, the shape Johnny was in, but he saw how he opened up to me, and he predicted that this would unfold to something. And he knew me for a long time, the head of the place, so he knew what I had done in different areas and how all these things that I had done in my career could help him in all ways, shapes, and form with what he was doing.
Right.
So it was just interesting that was noticed way on, and that's actually what happened. You know, we became really friends, and there has to be a tremendous amount of trust when you're trying to get somebody off of this. I mean, it's like, you know, I'm Johnny Winter. Why do I need to stop this?
Yep.
You know, I've been doing this for so long. You know, and then it's a test. Prove to me that it's good not to do this, not do that. So, you know, you go back and forth, and then he sees things starting to develop, and you know, he started doing TV shows. We did Letterman again, and he did Crossroads. And towards the end, I mean, his past 5 years, he was like, I'm so happy. There's so much going on. So that was nice. That's what fueled a lot of this, you know, just seeing him smile.
Yeah. So over the last 5 years or so, is there one performance or one thing that really jumps out at you, sticks in your head?
Well, when I got him on the Crossroads, and he first played in 2007 with Derek Trucks,
mm-hmm.
that was huge. He hadn't been on camera with that kind of thing for a long, long time, and that was his official comeback. That was like, oh boy, and you can see the smile on Derek's face, just ear to ear, just, oh, this is great. And if you look on his SG, he had Johnny Winter's autograph on there. He never took it off.
Yep. Yeah,
and that was one. Then Letterman TV, he hadn't been on that show in 30 years, the longest time between reappearance of a guest in the record books for Letterman when we did that show.
That was an amazing performance.
Yeah, those were great. Those are the most memorable. And then there's some festivals, you know, Japan, China, the first time in China. That was huge. That's actually in the movie that's coming out. Johnny Winter, Down and Dirty. We worked on a document.
I thought that was out already.
No. The trailer's out, but it's getting ready. We just finished the editing. Greg Oliver, the director of the Motorhead video, Lemmy.
Yeah.
We got in touch with each other, and he was looking to do something on Johnny, and I had put the feelers out, and it just clicked. And I said, "You got to come on the road with us." And he followed us for 3 years to Japan, to China, to Johnny's house in the East Coast, Johnny's house in Texas, to Europe, and he got the footage is amazing. It's so close and personal, and a lot of great cameos with like Billy Gibbons and Johnny's brother.
Mm-hmm.
They found Johnny's original guitar teacher, Luther Nally, 82 years old.
Really?
Guy still plays like Chet Atkins. Yeah, so it's really in depth.
Yeah, I remember asking Johnny about it during the interview, and he was excited that they were making it.
Yeah, and it showcased at South by Southwest last year.
Right.
And Johnny and I were sitting there. I bought him some popcorn, and he's like, "Oh, I love this! I'm watching myself on the big screen." He loved it. and then he and I played Jimmy Kimmel that night with the Lady Gaga was one of the hosts. That was pretty funny. So
tell me about his 70th birthday party at BB King's, which I was lucky enough to be in the front row for.
That was amazing. And if you're on the front row, you're probably in the movie.
Oh, great. That's awesome.
Yeah, because the 70th birthday was the finale of the movie.
Awesome.
That was the sign that the movie was done, too. A lot of people don't know that. We were waiting for that birthday to hit because it just started happening. We're like, wow, what if we end it with his birthday? So that was, tons of guests. It was controlled chaos. What song? Who's next? Who's going on? And it really went over well. And he loved it. I've never seen him smile. He said to me, he says, "Paul, this was perfect. Perfect. Everything from the cake, Sony giving him the cake, to the little streamer guns, to the guests, to his wife showing it. I had the two hosts. I had Bill Wax from XM Radio at the time.
Yep.
James Montgomery, and they worked well together. We had the screen. It was really, they showed the trailer, It's the most I've ever seen. I ever saw him smile, and I was so happy that it went over so well for him because he was so honored, so proud.
So I was actually wandering around with a photo pass that night. I was backstage taking pictures. Got some great shots of him and his wife Susan backstage, and
right.
was granted this amazing access for.
That was one hell of a night. Oh,
yeah, we had a blast.
And then a year later, we ended up. It was the Remembered show. Unfortunately, I mean, I will tell you that the unofficial or official diagnosis of what happened was Johnny had severe emphysema. It's the one thing we couldn't fix. He smoked too long, too hard. He quit like 3 years ago, but he caught a cold in Europe. We ended up in Zurich, and it went to pneumonia like instantly. And he took antibiotics, and it just caught up with him. He basically just went to sleep pretty much.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah, but nobody saw it coming. He didn't even know he was sick. I'm like, we should get this checked. And we went in and we looked, and they're like, oh, he's got a high temperature. And, it was very routine. It's, we've all taken antibiotics for colds, that kind of thing. But it knocked him.
Well, his lungs were in such rough shape that,
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why he was on the road so much. The road was being used to exercise the lungs to get them stronger. I had to do a lot of research on this and talk with doctors. There was a lot involved.
Yeah, I remember I asked him, that he's quit everything now, and he said, yeah. And I said, I heard you even quit smoking, and he said, oh, yeah, that's the hardest.
That was the hardest. That was harder than any drug for him.
Yeah,
because as you take stuff away, this one thing, the smoking, it becomes the one thing, and because it's socially acceptable, sort of, it's like, it's not that bad. But then, it's like, wow, this is serious.
Yeah. Then I asked him why he quit smoking, and he said, I couldn't sing anymore.
Yeah. No. Exactly. Yeah. It was. Yeah, and that's why once that stopped, the album started, because then his voice was so strong.
You know what?
Those vocals on those albums were one take.
Well, he was a one-take artist anyway, pretty much, wasn't he?
Exactly, but vocals, it's amazing. One take in like 2 days. He sang the whole album in 2 days. There was no coming back. It was like, that's it, I'm done.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
But yeah, the studio albums were just, amazing to watch that in progress. And all the guests.
Yeah, and I can imagine it wasn't too hard to get all the guests.
No one said no. That was the great thing about it. It was just a question of I had to pick the right guests for the right songs once Johnny picked all the songs. So I had to do the research, and I knew which players and what style, so I figured out which one would be assigned which song.
It worked perfect.
Yeah,
it absolutely worked perfect. When I was watching him, when I was watching him play, the last couple of years, obviously he lost a little something, and but once he broke out the Firebird and he put the slide on his finger,
forget it.
It was like he didn't lose hardly anything.
Yeah. No, the slide. And it was easier because it is a slide. You slide. For a while there, when he wasn't in the best of shape, playing regular guitar was getting a little difficult because, he just had to clean up his act. But the slide never wavered because it was, it was effortless, And that's the one thing. He was as addicted to everything else as he was to playing. So no matter what, whatever shape he was in, to get him to that stage, once he sat down, he just took off. And then when he started getting healthier, people were like, wow, this is something else.
Yeah, and he got better and better. And and
he kept on saying, Paul, I know I'm having a comeback, but I never went anywhere. I was like, well, enjoy it because he was being written out of music history. He wasn't there to do interviews for Muddy documentaries. He wasn't there to talk about Woodstock. He wasn't there for interviews. Nothing. So, in all those years when he was in bad shape, everyone else was regaining their status for the second time through retroism, and being rediscovered so that, the Claptons and the BBs and all these other artists were getting their names back with a different generation of listeners.
Right.
But Johnny, because he was in that shape, You know, so that's why those last years where we were playing an amazing game of catch-up to get back into history.
Yeah, and
so that's why, you know, the family and Edgar said, you know, it's a tragedy, but he left us on such a high note. There's no question that he doesn't belong on that Mount Rushmore of right there with, you know, Hendrix and he.
Yeah, and there was never a question.
Stevie Ray Vaughan took lessons from Johnny, so it's not even. It's not. There's no question about it. Everybody knew this. It was just Johnny was in such bad shape. You'd go to recommend Johnny, and it's like, well, look, what's wrong with this guy?
Yeah.
You know, I know he must have been good, but you know, so it was really hurting him. So once he got stronger, the band was able to play stronger, the recordings were stronger, and that's what you saw happening. And he was everywhere.
It was fun to watch, and I'm glad I was, you know, able to see him 3 or 4 times in the last few years, and the job you did with him all around was amazing, Paul.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And, you know, there's so much more material that is yet to be released. He played live for so many years. I mean, Johnny Winterhand was one show out of a massive shows that he did.
Yep.
And the estate will put out more stuff. I mean, Hendrix put out 3 albums last year.
I know.
How does that happen?
Yeah, I know.
So you know, as long as the legacy was secure, you know, his name will keep on. It has to. He's part of our history, our American tradition.
Well, it's good to hear those recordings. They all exist.
What's that?
All the recordings from those live shows, they do exist.
Oh yeah, there were all kinds of stuff from old management and employees and sound guys. You know, there's all kinds of stuff in the vault, and you know, there's always a vault. I don't know what the vault looks like, but everybody's always got a vault. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of companies that are going to put it out. You know, and keep. It's important. It's a legacy. You know, It's like Elvis. It's like all the. You know, now unfortunately we're in that situation where we have to do the same thing, but it's important.
So what's the one thing you miss the most, Paul?
Playing with him, just hanging around with him. You know, I mean, we live relatively close on the East Coast. When we got off the road, we would go bowling. I tell you, a lot of people don't know that. He had laser surgery about 2 years ago. He was no longer legally blind.
Wow.
Yeah, that was like a little extra thing. Nobody checked back in the day.
So
but yeah, just I don't know. Every time you hear the record, and even at the Grammys, you know, it's like you see him. You know, we all spent a lot of time with him, and it's, you know, it's rough. But yeah, I have to go on. I have to continue playing, and you know, I can't stop. So luckily, you know, all musicians are like a sponge. So there will always be a riff that I'll do that'll remind me of him, or somewhere I play, or something I hear or do. So
yeah,
you know, he turned me on to a lot of stuff. So I plan on continuing it, as you can hear in the background. Yeah.
And how's Susan? How's his wife doing?
She's great. Everything's good.
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, it was rough for everybody, but we have a really good support system here. So we all, if anyone's feeling kind of low, we go over and visit and make sure they're included in things we do. You know, it happens. We really worked to make sure that nobody was alone.
That's good. I know the band, you know, the other members of the band were hit pretty hard by it as well.
Oh, absolutely. But, you know, they're survivors. They play, they work, and, you know, it was my responsibility to keep them working with Johnny. And then, you know, we did the remembrance shows that kept them working, and, you know, and then they go off and do their own things. You know, they have to, but we'll always have that Johnny Winter name attached to us, and it's a huge honor.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that Johnny only recorded with 2 other guitar players, I think. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
So there's a few things when I was reading your bio that, you know, all the names that jump out at me. There was 2 that I wanted to ask you about in particular. So you worked with Joe Walsh?
Well, yeah, we recorded.
Yeah, and
that's the missing track that hasn't come out yet from Step Back.
Oh.
Yeah, so we're trying to decide whether we're going to use that track with him. There's 2 tracks that we haven't released yet. So that's part of that resume yet to come. Yes.
That's interesting.
And I will tell you, here's another sign that Johnny mentally thought that he was going to go on still for a long time. We were slated to do 2 more albums. And I said, the theme of these, as you know, is the, songs that you grew up on by artists that influenced you. Let's guess. And I said, there's 2 more in the works that we're signed to do. He goes, yeah, why don't we just do them both now? At once. I said, well, pick the songs. 20. So he picked 26 songs. Because we're like, so he said to me, he goes, yeah, because you never know how long those other artists are going to be around.
Oh.
So here he was thinking, he's so healthy, he's worried about the other guys. Yeah, let's do it now because so-and-so might, he's getting older. He had no plans on, this was totally, came from left field.
That's pretty amazing that he was thinking that way.
Yeah, but there were 2 tracks left, and we have the list of the 26 songs, and I'm almost thinking of I would love to put out a release that was songs that Johnny wanted to do.
Right.
Everybody does tributes to artists, of the material they did. But what about something where artists celebrate Johnny by finishing the record that he couldn't finish?
That's an amazing idea.
Yeah, so that's my next thing. I'm pitching that. We'll see what happens.
So the other name on the list that jumped out at me was Steve Morse.
Steve Morse. I'm on way back early 90s, mid-90s. We all did these records for Jason Becker,
the
guitar player with ALS.
Yeah.
So we were all on those recordings. Myself, Steve Vai, Vinnie Moore, Steve Morris, got all these guys. There were two versions. One was Warmth in the Wilderness 1, and then Jason Becker, I don't know if it's called Warmth in the Wilderness 2, but yeah, that was great.
You played with, all the greats, it seems like.
Yeah, and then Johnny's records, with Clapton and all those guys, Billy Gibbons, and then any guests that Johnny had, or stuff that I had done, my solo stuff before then. I was just playing with everybody, and this list just starts happening. You're like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
when I asked Johnny during the interview, I was asking him who played on the album, and he was listing off people, and then you can hear you in the background, and you say, "Didn't you forgot somebody?" And Johnny says, "Who? Oh, that's right, you, Paul." And you said, "Yeah," but you say, "No. What about the other guy?"
I'm on Killing Floor with him on this one, and then Short Fat Fanny on the other one. Yeah, it was always great playing with him one-on-one on a song of our own.
But then who you really meant was Clapton. He forgot Clapton, and he said, "Oh yeah, that's right, Clapton, that guy."
Oh yeah, that's the thing. That you're right, because the list of names of artists was getting so long, and then it's like, oh wow, I forgot Clapton, or I forgot to mention Billy Gibbons. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Well, both of us. It's like, who else is on this? Because they were all literally coming in under the wire. This, Ben Harper came in towards the end. And then Bonamassa.
Is there video of all of
Dr. John?
Is there video?
Yeah, it's hard to remember the list.
I'm sorry.
What's that?
Is there video of the recording?
Well, there's that song Death Letter,
right,
which came out. I think there's some studio footage of when I was producing the Blues Brothers Horns, when we got that together for... I got that together for the Unchain My Heart. That session there, I think we might have Warren Haynes from Roots. The cameras are rolling on some of that, not that much.
Yeah, it's a shame it all wasn't recorded.
Yeah, I know, but the Death Letter, they caught that. That was one of those moments where the hair stands up on your arm, you get that chill down your spine. You knew it was historic.
Yeah.
With him just with that solo guitar and singing Sun House with all the inflections. And you knew he studied him every nuance. So, that was a moment.
Yeah. What's the biggest thing that he taught you? Was it music, or was it something musical?
It was music stuff. I don't want to get too technical, but it was a lot of stuff about phrasing and, how to call and answer with, you know, a vocal, that kind of thing. But he also turned me on to, this was great. He would turn me on to an artist, and then I'd say, okay, I'm going to go out and buy all these albums. He said, whoa, 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 whoa. I go, what's the matter? He said, well, you don't have to get all these records. He called them records because, you know, vinyl. But he said, I'm going to tell you exactly what song to listen to and which solo to learn. I go, well, you just saved me like a half a year because I would have had to go through all these records. So this is the one I learned. This is the riff I learned. So he pointed me to everything that influenced his style of playing and the other artists of his generation. And that was like cutting to the chase. It was like having being directed right down the path to exactly what is needed. And that really helped me, you know.
And the cool thing is that I'm sure you appreciated what was happening as it was happening.
Oh, absolutely. And then, you know, I'm next to him playing, so every day I'm seeing him play. I'm seeing where his hands are. I'm hearing the notes. It's in my brain. So then when I pick up my instrument, it just clicks. You know, that happens too. All these artists that are with the notable artists, you know, when you play like that, you learn how to compliment them, but at the same time, it's like, wow, that was a nice idea over this. I like how he did this or this and that. And I've always been one of those kind of players when I'm not doing my own solo stuff. I'm really into playing for the sake of the artist who's there and the song, you know?
Yeah.
If it turns into this boxing match, people start tapping, but they don't tap their feet anymore. It's just like, what are you guys doing? It's just a show-off thing.
Yeah.
I never wanted that. He had a lot of that, and I won't mention names, but it really, really pissed him off.
People trying to come and outdo him?
Yeah, you know, all that. His least favorite album was Johnny Winterhand, which was his highest-selling one because of the other guitar work just becoming a battle. But that style of playing led to Leonard Skinner. It led to a lot of double solo guitar things, a little more controlled with harmonies and, you know, unison lines. But when they did it, it was just a solo over a solo. I mean, it was just, you know, crazy. That drove him nuts. So, yeah. So that's why we got along so well, because I really, you know, he'd play low, I'd play high. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's upcoming for you now? I know you're producing a few acts.
Well, yeah, I'm producing. I've always produced. My own solo project, I got signed, so I'm working on that. You know, it's really cool. The fans are been really gracious in their wanting to hear what I do next, because it's like, you know, you have to, what do you got kind of thing. So, So that's next. So I got some great musicians from all over the world, and and then I'm guest appearing with all these artists. I just got back from Jamaica. I sat in with Warren Haynes and Sonny Landreth with Government Mule. I played with Anders Osborne and the London Souls. That was great. So there's a lot of stuff going on. You know, I'm just getting over what's going on, and then I'll have to make some decisions as to what direction I want to go in. But right now, I don't want to choose anything drastically.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Right. So, but the movie's coming out. There's a lot of material coming out. I think there's a live from Japan CD version coming out that I was on. So there's a lot of stuff.
So when is the movie scheduled to come out?
Next several months.
Okay. Nothing.
Yeah, the ink is still wet. The editing is done. It's been approved. So the powers that be that are going to distribute this are all in place now, and it's time.
Gotcha. So listen, just to wrap up, you've been doing a lot of interviews, I know, rightfully so. What's
a couple?
Yeah. What's the one or two things that nobody's been asking you that you want to share? Because I always, when I do these interviews, I always find that people usually ask the same routine type questions. So is there anything I haven't asked you or you haven't been asked?
No, because you know what I do? I kind of mix in my answers with a question that hasn't been asked and kind of answer that. It gets blended together. You know, you do these. You get. I don't want to say you get used to them because something always comes out different. But no, the questioning you've done. I mean, you knew Johnny. You've done the research. You know about me. It's all good.
Yeah, and you're sort of like
covered everything.
Sort of like the perfect interviewee because you do that for me. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, the important thing is to keep Johnny's legacy going. That's all I ever wanted for him. He was one of my idols. I was the luckiest musician and fan in the world. I don't deny that. But you do have to have your stuff together when you get that call.
Oh yeah.
So he took me under his wing, and I tried to do right by him. That's all I ever tried to, do. Like his wife said, did you ever expect it would get this deep? And I said, no, I didn't know. But you just have to go, okay, and you just focus. A lot of stuff is off the cuff, but it's off the cuff after a tremendous amount of research before you make a final decision, because you're dealing with a big career and someone's life.
Yep.
So,
well, you were ready. You were in the right place at the right time, and you
exactly.
Well, you had what it took to do it, though, Paul. A lot of people would have fallen on their faces,
Thanks. And I did listen to the fans. I was one of them. How come Johnny doesn't have this? Why didn't he have one of these? Why wasn't this out? And then other stuff as well. But it was funny. The fans would say, "Why doesn't Johnny have this?" And my answer would be, "I already made that deal a year ago. It's coming out." It's all done. Don't worry. I know what you want for him, and I'm going to do it.
Yeah, one of the things I loved. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
One of the things I loved that he got rid of that silly little guitar he was playing.
Yes, and it was very funny because finally I found a company, Dean Zielinski Guitars, who was the owner of Dean.
I know Dean.
He started making his own brand of guitars, which didn't have the crazy, headstock. Didn't want to be too crazy.
Yep.
But he started playing that guitar, and he said to me one day, he says, I really like this new guitar. It's got my name scrolled on. It's very lightweight. I can walk on stage. I love the sound. He goes, but something weird's happening. The fans are really happy that I'm not playing that other guitar.
Oh, we hated that.
And I'm like, He goes, why are they so happy? It's almost like they didn't like it. And I'm like, well, Johnny, it was kind of dated. It became you because you are who you are, but it was time.
Yeah.
He goes, well, I'm glad because I really like this guitar. I go, thank God, because everybody else likes a guitar that has a headstock. It was a great guitar. The thing was, it sounded great. It was like a Gibson and a Fender together, and I totally understood it. But the look was a little, But man, I mean, that guitar was used on albums like Let Me In.
Yep.
Illustrated Man. I mean, that thing wailed. And I know Earl Wine and the guy that put him out. He's a great guitar maker in Texas. But it was a little dated for him, and it was nice to see him behind something different because he just used it so much.
Yeah. I actually met Dean at Johnny's birthday party at BB King's.
Oh, yeah.
And,
he flew over, yeah. He's a great guy. He's got stories that you wouldn't believe. I mean, he was responsible for ZZ Top's fur guitars.
I know, Michael Schenker.
Michael Schenker.
I know.
Schenker.
All right, listen, Paul, I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Paul. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Have a good day.